My name is Colin Valenti, and I'm a freshman at St. Leo University. And today I'm going to interview Brother Stephen about several questions that interest me about religion and faith. And, how are you doing today, Brother
I'm doing
Stephen?
great. Thank you for coming.
All right. My first question for today, I wanted to ask, do you have any arguments for God's existence?
For God what?
God's existence.
Arguments? No. I firmly believe it.
About what I meant was by that, do you have arguments that like boost God's existence, like something that you would give as an
If I
example?
were talking to somebody who didn't believe in God?
Yes.
Well, that's usually a very difficult conversation. I believe things I can't touch and feel, and somebody who doesn't believe in God usually can't. Like Thomas, if you don't put your fingers in the holes, you don't believe it. So that's usually a wasted conversation. What the difference is whether I believe God has. Why did God create evil in the world? That's an argument. He didn't. All the bad people in the world were children of God. Free will allowed them to do what they wanted. They turned away from God. Cain slew Abel, but Cain was born of God. His parents were created by God. But he decided to become evil, and Abel, the good one, died. So God does not create it. God is a God of love.
Yes, sir.
People create evil.
I do concur. My second question is, what is some evidence for believing in God? Like, what would be support someone?
Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas wrote a thing called First Cause. The theory was that everything has a beginning and the same thing has an end. Therefore, somebody had to create it. And he proved the existence of God in his philosophy of First Cause.
I do remember reading The Five Ways by...
that's another. But now he's a religious. He was a Dominican friar.
Yes.
A lot of people don't feel that he's a philosopher, that he's a theologian, but he's both. If you've read his works, you'll see very clearly that he's both.
Yes, sir. And, okay. What since you already touched upon this is my my third question. Are there any other reasons for believing in God that just to continue, if you have any more off the top of your head?
Well, do you believe that you have any gifts or talents from God?
I do believe I have. I don't want to know if this is. I can do this with my ear.
Okay,
I think that kind of counts because that's
God gave you the ear, but anyway. Now, what I'm saying is, if you're a compassionate person and you feel for somebody else's pain,
yes, sir.
Or you have a talent, you're a good singer, you're a kind person, you have a very strong intellect. If you believe that any or all of those are from God, that proves the existence of God to me. But the point now is, now that he gave, why would he give you those gifts? How do you thank God for the gifts that he gave you?
Use them for good.
You take the gifts and share them with somebody else that is less fortunate than you are. Or even somebody that's not less fortunate. Let's say your buddies, and he's got a problem, and you got a date with a hot girl on campus, and you may have heard me say this in class about a girl. And you got a date with a hot girl on campus, but he's so upset. You call the girl and say, listen, I can't make it tonight. My buddy needs me more. That's a sign that God is in you.
I completely understand, sir. And this one, you said it a little bit. What started the problem of evil with Cain and Abel? Would you say that would be?
Well, yeah. And first of all, God cannot. He abhors sin. In the Old Testament, he sends David and Joshua, tells them to kill all the people, the children, the women, and the animals, because it was sinful. He could not abhor any. He hated sin.
Yes.
Hated sin. But I think the best example is you have to put God and sin and good in the proper perspective. Let's use God as the good and Satan as the bad. Have you read the book of Job?
I have not.
Okay, because I'm a religious, I'm using religious, but I think there's a practical answer in this. The book of Job is the oldest book, many people believe, in the Old Testament. But more importantly, they don't believe it's a real book, that it really happened.
Really?
Even the experts. They think it's a made-up story, but it's a great faith made-up story. But in the first chapter, Satan is walking around heaven. He was a fallen angel. He's walking around heaven. He's a bad guy now. And God says to him, what are you doing here? He said, I'm just traveling around the world checking on my people. He's got everything. Why shouldn't he be faithful? And God says, okay, you can do anything you want to him, but you can't take his life. So Satan goes out and gives him elephantitis, swelling, horrible swelling, and leprosy. And he's sitting there with sackcloth and ashes. His wife is saying to him, why don't you curse your God and die? And he calls her a foolish woman. And he never gives up his faith in God. And he's rewarded. He has more children, he has more cattle and sheep than he had before, and more land than he had before. So the story, here's what the answer in my long-winded manner is. When Satan said, sure, why not? God said, okay, you can do anything you want to him, but you can't take his life. Who made the ground rules? God did.
Yeah.
Whoever makes the covenant is the one in charge. So therefore, if good and evil are together and God and Satan are there, God is the boss. Satan is doing what God told him to do. So the point is that represents good and evil. Evil in the world came from people. The same God that created Job created Judas. The same God. One was a good man and one was evil.
Yeah.
Free will. Free will.
Free will. What do you believe in more, faith or reason?
Well, both. There is. You can be a fanatic, a religious fanatic. And, you know, I don't believe in everything that people tell me. I believe in what my heart tells me when I look at it, because of my faith in God. You could tell me a story about God, and I say, "Come on, you got to be kidding! You know, you think in a million years I'm going to believe that?" But reason is a gift from God. If it allows you to think through and develop, let's say you're in school and you've got a tough class, a really tough class. If you have the ability to think more than one or two steps in advance of the logical conclusion, you're training your mind to have peripheral vision. Instead of having narrow focus, now your focus is widened. That helps create a better education, makes you smarter, more capable of helping everybody. So there's a...
Yes, sir. Yeah, I do think they do go hand in hand together. You can't have one without the other. But what would you call mysticism? Individual.
And also, is it a ridiculous example of mysticism? Is it something that happens that you're not expecting, that you really can't explain, and it's not really godlike? Yeah, I believe that from that standpoint, I could understand mysticism being real at times. Depends on the example.
True. And for my final question, I want to ask, what is the solution to the problem of religious diversity?
There's no solution. It's actually, you're going to a school that has religious diversity. St. Leo University is about 60-40, non-Catholic to Catholic. The real world that you'll go out to when you graduate is more non-Catholics than Catholic in the world. So now what St. Leo consists of is Islam, Catholicism, every branch of Protestantism, Jewish, every race that's what the world is. So if you're sharing your cultures with everybody, you're going to be a better person, able to live a better life when you go out to school, because you will have lived and learned to be a tolerant person, not to judge people by what they look like on the outside, but what's inside them. So it's a good thing. Religious diversity is a good thing. There's an old joke about a guy goes to heaven and a Catholic, and St. Peter says to him, "You're about ready for the tour. You'll be going on a tour." He said, "Tour?" And he said, "Yeah." He takes him to a room with these incredible marble doors. And he says, "What's in there?" He said, "That's the greatest musicians of all time." And he opens the door and you hear this incredible music. He said, "The next door," he said, "is all the great authors. You see Shakespeare, all the wonderful authors." He said, "The third door, we got to tiptoe past." They tiptoe past it. He said, "What's in there?" He said, "Those are our Catholics. They think they're the only ones up here." Now that's an old belief. And in pre-Vatican II, there were a lot of Catholics that actually believed that, which is baloney.
It does.
It's baloney. So the religious diversity, if you can learn from each other and take the best of each other, both parties are better people. So religious diversity, when it's used properly, is a tremendous aid in learning how to live your life.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Okay.